everyone, this is Tessa, and today we're going to be focusing on yoga for core strength and back pain relief, especially low back pain relief, and really opening up the chest. So one of, if not the best pose for low back pain is downward facing dog. So we're going to move right into that. So from whatever seated position you're in, go ahead and bring yourself to this position on your mat. And you want to be sure that you're on a sticky surface. It can be a hardwood floor or a yoga mat. You can do it on your carpet if you need to. But for downward facing dog, to get into it, you want your wrists in front of your shoulders and your knees in back of your hips. And so I'm just gonna break it down so that when we're finally in dog, we're just supported and we feel good. So for your hands, go ahead and just spread your fingertips wide. So spreading your fingers wide, really pressing through that inner part of the palm. So you wanna press in between your thumb and your forefinger. So pressing there, you can just tuck your toes under, and you want to move into this slow so that you're warming up your wrists, because you are putting a fair amount of weight on your wrists. So go ahead and press your palms, that inner part of the palm, tuck your toes under, and just start to press your thighs back. So for now, I want you to keep your knees bent and really focus your attention on pressing the inner part of the palm. Don't let your hands pop up. So really pressing, keep your knees bent. So press, start to bring your chest down towards your thighs, keeping your knees bent. So by keeping the knees bent, you're creating less pressure in your low back. So really pressing the palms, bringing the chest down. And now from this position, you can begin to straighten the legs. You never want to lock your knees by just jamming your knees back. You really want to feel the strength in your thighs. So really pressing the thighs back, pressing those inner palms, and just notice your breath. So really feeling that length in your spine as you press your palms, press the knees back. And coming out, just taking a nice rest in child's pose. So go ahead and just bring your toes together and your knees wider than your hips apart. And you're just going to begin to let that tailbone descend towards your heels and let the chest just drop. So sometimes when there's stiffness, you might be up here, it doesn't matter. Just keep letting the tailbone descend. And we're gonna make this a more active child's pose to really get more release in the back. So go ahead and just let your head rest. So first, just, take a few breaths, settling in. And just notice in your back, be aware of where you need release. Really bring that mindfulness there. So go ahead and once you find your position on the floor, go ahead and walk your hands forward. So this is going to be similar to what we were doing in downward facing dog with the palms. So even if you're up here, I want you to focus on descending the heel. I want you to focus on descending the tailbone as you walk the fingers forward. So once you find a spot that feels right for you, press those inner palms just like in downward facing dog. Descend the tailbone, and you're gonna start to feel release in that low back, even in the ribs. So be aware of if you're tensing your face and just relax. Really press those palms and keep walking the fingertips forward, descending the tailbone. So once you find this release in your low back in this position, go ahead and just ease up a bit with your arms. So if there's one side of your back that hurts more, go ahead and you're gonna be bringing your hands away from that side. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with my left. So I'm bringing my hands to the right, still letting my tailbone descend. And it's all about what you do with your palms to really get into that low back. So keep pressing your palms, really walking them away from the side that is sore or tense. And keep descending the tailbone. And then go ahead and do the same on the other side. So the hand that's inside, you can even bring it by your knee if you like, or you can keep pressing both. This is the most important hand to be pressing. So this is much different if I go like this and let my hand pop up. It's really about pressing the palm and feeling that release. Even if you're up here, it's getting that decompression in your spine. So go ahead and come back. And making child's pose a little bit more passive, go ahead and just relax your arms and just let the tailbone descend. Notice what happened. You may feel a little better in that low back already. So coming into downward facing dog again. So remember your position. Go ahead and place your palms, tuck your toes under, and downward facing dog again. Remember to press those inner palms. So this time, and also with the feet, make sure that you're not together with your feet. Feet are hip distance apart. And so just basic dog now, pressing the thighs back, descending the heels. So to really understand what it means to feel strong in the thighs in dog, which is a huge part of getting release in the back. Just keep pressing your palms, but you're gonna lift your heels. Nothing changes. You're just lifting your heels as you press your palms. So what I see people do a lot of the time is when they lift their heels, they come forward. That's not what we want. So keep pressing the palms, lifting the heels as you press, and you're gonna feel a little more tension in your arms. You're gonna feel a lot more strength in your thighs, and that's what we want. So then, keeping that strength, just bring the heels back down. And back into child's pose. And at any point, if you begin to feel like this is too much, just come into child's pose and take a few breaths and then come back into it. So child's pose again. If you want to mix it up a little bit, you can bring your knees a little bit further apart and just bring your chest in, letting this be a passive child's pose, just resting for a minute, taking a few breaths. And just notice how you feel. That low back should be starting to feel better by now. So we're gonna do downward facing dog one more time. And this time, since we've really gotten into the low back, we're gonna focus on opening up the upper back a little bit more. So one little trick that I've learned. So from this position, instead of pointing your middle finger forward, you wanna point your forefinger forward. So pointing the forefingers forward, spread your fingers wide. And what this position does is it opens up the arms, it opens up the chest. And as a result, the upper back is more open. So same thing, go ahead and bring the toes under, press those inner palms. Downward facing dog is a great way to learn about how your hand position can affect a pose. So really press your palms. Nothing changes in your palms as you bring the heels down, the thighs back, and just notice how this feels different. You should feel a greater opening in your upper back, really bringing the thighs down. And so to get even more opening without changing anything, go ahead and just look up as much as you can without straining the neck. And feel the shoulder blades move down towards the mat. Really letting your chest open. And again, at any point, if this is too much, just come into child's pose. So bringing it all together, feeling the strength in the thighs, pressing the palms, feeling that length in the spine, that decompression. And coming back down. So a lot of the times when you feel back pain, it's because the discs in the spine are compressed. So asana, a yoga pose like downward facing dog, it literally stretches the discs, the vertebrae, and it stimulates the spinal fluid, and all of that can decrease pain. So if you're feeling pain, first thing would be a smart, mindful downward facing dog. So now that we're nice and warmed up, another big part of feeling relief, back pain relief, especially low back pain, is core strength. So we're gonna move into a seated position. All right, so once you find yourself in this position, the seated position, just be mindful of a few things. So if your core is a little bit weaker, you're gonna be tempted to round your spine when you start to engage in boat pose. So just be careful of not doing this. You really wanna keep your shoulder blades moving in, just like in downward facing dog. So moving your shoulder blades in, really supporting yourself. So a little bit of rounding is okay, but just be mindful of really lifting the chest, bringing the shoulder blades in. So this is the most basic version of boat pose right here. So this is a great place to start, just keeping the feet down. So in this simple position, just keep bringing the shoulder blades in. And go ahead and just lift one leg. And then the other leg. Just moving slowly. Now, go ahead and lift and hold and keep lifting a little bit more. So boat pose is all about straightening the leg. And again, you don't want to do this. You want to keep the chest nice and open. So in this position, be mindful of reaching through your fingertips and really keep opening through your chest. And this is a little more challenging, so you can kind of take a breath in between each side. And so moving right into that opposite side, staying mindful of what you're doing with the upper body. So bringing that other leg up and straightening. And you may not be able to straighten the leg today, that's okay. If you're here, that's fine. The whole goal is just to keep rooting down through where you feel yourself. So the whole goal is to keep rooting down through where you're seated as you work on just straightening that leg. And I'm definitely feeling the heat. So this is a great pose for strengthening up that core, taking the pressure off of the low back. And go ahead and just take a minute. You can even bring your hands on top of your knees and rest your head. So this time we're ready for both legs. So coming back into this position, and if you spend the entire time going in and out of this is a great way to start building up the core muscles. So from this position, just one leg at a time, this is also a balancing pose. So just feel the strength in your core as you open up your chest. This is great. Eventually, you want to just straighten your legs. And the one thing I've learned about boat pose is it can be really taxing on your hip flexors if you tend to have weak hips. I've always struggled with weak hips. So when you find yourself in boat pose, one thing that you need to be careful about is overworking the hip flexor, and that's really easy to do. You have 2 hip flexors right in the very front, so especially as you bring your legs closer to straight, you're gonna begin to feel it more. And if it feels okay, then keep going, but if it hurts, then I would just lower the legs until you feel challenged, but you don't feel too much pulling around your hip area. So one more time, go ahead and find your position, remembering to open up the chest as you straighten your legs. And with boat pose, I like to go in and out. I just begin to feel it in my hip flexors if I hold it for too long, or I collapse through my chest, which isn't good either. So now that we're done with boat pose, I mentioned the hip flexors. Your hips in general can begin to feel tight after doing abdominal work. So we are ready for a hip opener. So this is simple, and it's probably my favorite hip opener. So just with legs extended, you're gonna go ahead and bring your feet together. And so if your knees are up higher, that's totally fine. Just focus on bringing the soles of your feet together and allowing the knees to drop. So in this position, you can grab onto your knees, your shins, your ankles, and you're just gonna open up your chest, really letting your groins release, letting your hips release. And if you need more, if you're not feeling much, you can just bring your heels closer and closer to your pelvic floor area. And go ahead and release your hands, and you can keep walking your hands forward, bringing your chest down. And you just don't want to collapse. You want to keep your chest initiating that forward movement. And release. And you can support the knees to come out. And we're going to go ahead and end with just a simple twist. So lifting through your chest, the back hand is going to support you, and the forward hand is going to help you twist. So go ahead and just place that hand in back of you, and it can support you, keeping the spine elongated. And you're just going to use that forward hand to twist, and you're not yanking your head back, you're just letting your gaze follow the twist. And then other side, back hand pressing to lengthen, forward hand really twisting that spine. And that is it for today. So if you like this video, please favorite and come back and watch as many times as you want. If you have any requests, let me know, because I love requests and giving you what you want. And I hope that you have a great day. It's been awesome practicing with you, and I hope to do it again.